It was a crime which pushed everything else off the front pages. 3 men, all known criminals, found shot dead in the Essex countryside. It was a cold-blooded, professional killing. The victims had many enemies, but which one wanted them executed?
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. One of the more common questions that I've been asked over the past couple of years surrounding the Essex Boys murders seems to focus on the drugs which were found in Pat Tate's bloodstream. Some people believe he was overdosed intentionally, and others just believe that they were heavy drug users. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the evidence which could support either claim. And first, we're going to start with a newspaper article from The Guardian, which was dated the 7th of the 3rd, 96, with the title The Hit, which describes what was found in Pat Tate's bloodstream. It's in this newspaper article that it states the following. They died in under 2 seconds. And only one, Tate, seemed to know anything about it. How much, as almost everything in this case, is conjecture. A post-mortem examination highlighted a combination in his bloodstream of heroin, cocaine, cannabis and steroids. Now, when I first posed that question to myself, I guess I just thought it was a little bit outlandish. You know, these 3 guys were heavy drug users in any case, taking pretty much whatever they could get their hands on. So is it really that strange that Tate was found with that combination of drugs in his bloodstream? But then when you tie it into certain other events, such as the potential unrest between Tucker and Tate leading up to the murders, and the fact that Tucker and Rolfe had killed Kevin Whitaker just a year earlier via a similar method, it did make me wonder if there was something more to this. Now, many of you watching this video will have seen the films, the Rise of the Foot Soldier films, etc., where Tucker and Tate are portrayed almost as brothers. But when we take a look at the official statements surrounding this case, it appears that shortly before the murders, there was a lot more going on than what is actually portrayed in these films. Just to give you a brief overview of some of the things that I've discussed in previous videos, we had the situation with Tate being recalled to prison after the shooting incident. We had Tucker going round to Tate's friend to try and collect the money on a car that Tate was selling whilst he was in prison. We had Tucker's purchasing of this brand new house, Tate being concerned where he got the money for this house from. We had, at one point in time, Tucker dealing with Tate's then long-term girlfriend, Sarah Saunders, and paying her a salary every month whilst Tate was in prison. And Tate seemingly had a change of heart whilst in prison and took that responsibility from Tony Tucker and gave it to Michael Steele. So there was certainly a level of distrust there between Tucker and Tate, particularly near the end. We also have the following statement, which is from Donna Garwood's brother. Now, Donna Garwood was the then girlfriend of Tony Tucker, and her brother mentions the following in his statement. I remember Donna told me once that Pat Tate had come out of prison. She said, he's only been out 5 weeks. She said that since Pat had come out, Tony had become worried about something. He had taken a bit of a low profile. He wasn't himself. Donna said he started staying in with her a lot, and Tony was a bit jumpy. Donna said she thought Pat had done something which reflected on Tony, but she didn't say what. Now, obviously that statement is quite vague in places, and it does leave a lot to the imagination. But one thing that is for sure is that when you combine that one with Barry Dorman's statements, the car dealer who was Pat Tate's friend, where he talks about Tucker turning up on the forecourt and demanding the money for the car, which was sold on Tate's behalf, and Tate calling Barry Dorman from prison and saying, under no circumstances give the money to anybody else, make sure you keep it until I come out, don't give it to Tony, don't give it to anybody. And yet Tucker was turning up there to try and get hold of that money. There's something not quite right there between that relationship with Tucker and Tate leading up to their murders. Let's take a look back at Barry Dorman's statement from the 8th of December 1995, where it states the following. I did not go and see Pat in prison, but I was asked by Pat through Sarah Saunders to dispose of his current vehicle, which was a black 928 S2 Porsche. I took possession of the vehicle from Sarah, and after having some work done on it, I put it up for sale on my front for around £8,995. When I had the car, I received a phone call from Pat in prison telling me to keep the money if I sold the car and not to give it to Sarah or anyone else. I had the vehicle for a couple of months, and during this time I took 2 deposits on the car, but the sales fell through. When I took the deposits, I used to put a sold sign on the vehicle, and when I did this, I received a visit from the man called Tony Tucker. At this time, I think I'd met Tucker once or twice when he had attended the car front with Pat before he was returned to prison. When he came to my garage, Tucker told me to give him the money, whilst Pat was in prison. Although I had heard about Tony Tucker and I did not want to cross him, I was more concerned about crossing Pat, and therefore I told Tony I would not give him the money. When I stood my ground, I told him what Pat had said. Tony seemed to accept it and left my garage. I kept the car for a couple of months but could not sell it. I therefore returned it to Sarah Saunders. In this time I only saw Tony Tucker once more, when he came up to my car front on a horse and asked me if I had any luck selling it. At this time I had become aware of Tony moving into a house in Fobbing High Road with a large plot of land. I had a couple of phone calls from Pat whilst he was in prison, but they appeared to be merely for a chat rather than anything specific. The next time I saw Pat was when he came down to my car front after he had been released from prison. And then, as I touched upon earlier, we had the situation with Sarah Saunders whilst Pat was in prison. Now, she was being paid X amount of money to keep her going whilst Pat was inside. Originally, that job was given to Tony Tucker. It was his responsibility. But somewhere down the line, Michael Steele, I believe, got called to the prison for a meeting with Pat, or a conversation with Pat, where he said that he no longer trusted Tony, didn't know what he was doing with the money. He wasn't quite sure where the money was going and whether Sarah was getting it or something along those lines. So he decided to give that responsibility to Michael Steele. So regardless, there was a level there of distrust between Tucker and Tate. And when we go back to that statement from Donna Garwood's brother, what exactly does he mean there, or did she mean, when she said that Tucker was concerned that Tate had done something which reflected on him? What exactly is being spoken about there? Now, throughout my time making videos on the Essex boys case, I've heard a lot of rumours. I've had people coming forward saying they know things, etc, etc. And one of the ones that sticks in my mind is the fact that Tate was supposedly going to be drugged up and given over to someone else. Now, does that tie in with the sightings of the white vehicle that was seen following the Range Rover, or the Range Rover following that white vehicle, turning into White House Farm just before they were supposedly killed? Does that tie in somewhere with that white vehicle, that Tate was somehow rendered unconscious and he was going to be given over to someone else? Was that part of the plan? We know that Tucker and Rolfe had done something similar before with Kevin Whitaker. But I guess the biggest sort of red flag for me personally, that this could have some sort of, I don't know, credibility, is the fact of these phone calls. And this is something I've touched upon in previous videos. I can't get my head around the fact that it's Tony Tucker who is speaking to this, whoever it was, at the Sorrel Horse Inn. Now, we're always told that it was Tate that was, you know, the catalyst. Tate was the person who was the marked man in all of this. He was the catalyst for these murders. So why was it Tucker that was receiving the call to supposedly arrange the meet for that evening? Now, some people will say that Tate was with Tucker on Timberlog Lane at that payphone when the meeting was arranged. But there's something that I'd missed, even after looking into this case for the last couple of years, something that I've overlooked, which was just staring me in the face the whole time, to be perfectly honest. When we take a look at the phone records, there is something which gives a great deal of credibility to the fact that Tucker and Tate were most definitely in 2 separate places when the meeting was arranged. If we take a look at the phone log here, 1423, Tate's landline, Tate's home address to Tucker's mobile, 1423. Then at 1429, the payphone at the Sorrel Horse Inn calls Tucker's mobile. Now, this is the call which is supposedly to arrange the meet for later that evening, the one which they are later killed. Then we have 1432, again the payphone at the Sorrel Horse Inn to the payphone on Timberlog Lane. So at 1423, Tate is most likely at his home address, phoning Tucker's mobile. Then that payphone at the Sawhorse Inn contacts Tucker's mobile, and then the telephone on Timberlog Lane. Now we know that Tucker was on Timberlog Lane because he was settling up a bill at a carpet shop on that very same road. So if Tate was the catalyst, then why is Tucker doing all of the arranging? Why is he the person that is arranging the meet for later that evening? Why are they trying to contact Tony Tucker? Is this because Tucker and Rolfe were going to hand Tate over to somebody else? Was this a double cross which went horribly wrong? I think to summarise, without seeing a full toxicology report and looking at the levels of the drugs found in Tate's system, it's quite difficult to make any real sort of assumption as to whether he was intentionally overdosed or whether this was simply three individuals who like to take every drug under the sun. Could this have been a double cross which went wrong, as I just said earlier? Was it Tucker's job to get Tate down the lane for someone else to be collected? Or was this simply just three people who like to dabble in whatever drug they could find? Many thanks for joining me for this video. Very shortly you'll be able to see some other videos from the channel, including the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I look forward to seeing you all again in the next video. Take care. Cheers.